Welcome to Health Hacktivators with lifestyle medicine doctor, GP and longevity expert Dr. Alka Patel. This show will help you to discover a hidden health hacking code that unlocks your phenomenal potential for an outstanding health span, lifespan and wealth span. The show features candid conversations with celebrities, influencers and industry icons, real-life stories and cutting-edge health activating advice that other doctors might not tell you. Discover why now is the time to join the strategic self-care revolution and experience the profound effects this will have on your personal and professional success. Now, here is your host, Dr. Alka Patel.
Before we get into today's show, please do support today's show partner, Youth and Earth. Youth and Earth have a range of products that I love to use myself to supercharge my metabolism, to support my health, and to slow down cellular aging. Just be sure you click the link in the show notes for exclusive offers which Youth and Earth are so generously giving for listeners of this show. Hi, hey, and hello, Health Hacktivators. Today we are diving into the world of love to understand this very complex and beautiful emotion even more. So the one question that I'm asking today is, how can I experience even more love? And I'll be sharing 2 references and providing you with 3 hacks so that you can hack your way to love. So through this episode, what will I be doing? I'm looking at what love is and why it matters. And we'll get into the science of love as well. And as always, I'll be exploring data and devices that can support your love journey as well. Now, love is fascinating, isn't it? I'm sure you'll agree. Its ethereal quality in itself is so intriguing. Love is something that we all experience in our lives. It's a universal human emotion. But have you ever stopped to wonder what love really is? And what difference does love make to you? Well, let's get into this. Love is a deep-rooted feeling, deeply rooted in our evolutionary history. It's part of a survival strategy for our species. And from an evolutionary perspective, what love does is it serves as a very powerful driving force for our reproduction, of course, and for that continuation of our genetic lineage. But going beyond reproduction survival, why does love even matter? Well, as this show is all about longevity and living your longest, happiest, healthiest life, did you know that love also has a remarkable connection to your longevity? It does. Love and a long life go hand in hand. So what the research tells us is that people in loving and supportive relationships, they experience better health outcomes and they experience a longer lifespan compared to people who are perhaps lonely or lacking in more strong social connections. It's the emotional and social support provided by love that acts as a protective factor against various health conditions and really promotes overall well-being. Now, one aspect of love that contributes to longevity is its positive impact on stress levels. So love and affectionate relationships, they've been found to reduce stress and lower the production of the stress hormone cortisol. What love also does is plays a very crucial role in your immunity. So when you feel loved and supported, what your body does is it mounts an even more responsive immune response, which then enhances your ability to fight infection, fight disease as well. And it's this immune supporting effect of love that then helps you to stay healthier and, of course, more resilient as well. And love's been linked to better cardiovascular health, so better heart health. Having loving relationships, it's been found to lower blood pressure. And it's that, again, that emotional connection and support provided by love that then positively impacts on your cardiovascular system as well. And of course, love's influence on longevity just goes well beyond physical health. Love matters because it's the emotional connection and the support that's offered by love that gives you security and belonging and connection and emotional fulfillment. Love matters. And now we know why it matters. But what even is love? How do you even begin to define it? Well, to help with that, I want to turn to the work of Robert Sternberg and his very influential theory of love. Now, Robert Sternberg, he's a psychologist and a psychometrician based in the University of Cornell in New York. And love, in terms of trying to define it, well, it's easier to understand if we look at it through its three fundamental components. So what are these three components? These three components are intimacy, passion, and commitment. So what is intimacy? Well, intimacy is an emotional closeness. It's a connection, a bond that is shared. And it involves feelings of, well, warmth, trust, deep friendship. Intimate love creates security. It creates understanding in a relationship. Relationships where you're confiding in each other. What about passion? What is passion? Well, passion is that intense physical and sexual attraction. It encompasses desire and excitement. It's this powerful longing to be close to the person that you love. And with passionate love, you get that exhilarating chemistry and those fireworks that ignite when two individuals are drawn to each other. And I'll talk about chemistry a little later as well. And then that third component of love, commitment. What is commitment? Commitment is the decision to maintain a long-term relationship. And it's that willingness to work through challenges, to work through conflicts as well. And it involves things like dedication, loyalty, and an intention to build a future together. Commitment is about the long-term investment in a partnership, even during times of adversity. And when these three components, intimacy, passion, and commitment, when they're combined in varying degrees, this then gives rise to different types of love. So let's drop into that. Let's explore different types of love. Romantic love. Romantic love is a combination of intimacy and passion. It's that intense emotional connection and strong physical attraction. It's that sort of love that you often experience at those initial stages of a relationship where the passion and excitement, they're all at their peak. And then there's companionate love. Companionate love, what's that? Well, that's a combination of intimacy and commitment. And it's deep-rooted in deep friendship, in trust, in this sense of companionship. And you see companionate love in long-term relationships, things like marriages, or where that intense passion of romantic love has evolved into a much calmer, more stable bond. What about fatuous love? Fatuous love, that's the combination of passion and commitment. But what it doesn't have is it doesn't have the depth of emotional intimacy. And you often see fatuous love when people make very hasty commitments, which are based solely on infatuation, or they're based on external circumstances without really developing this strong emotional connection. And then there's consummate love. Consummate love, which represents that ideal combination of all three components, intimacy and passion and commitment. This is your epitome of love. It's where you're experiencing deep emotional connection, intense physical attraction, and long-term dedication to your partner. Well, this type of love, well, it needs effort. It needs nurturing. It needs attention in order to then continuously cultivate all three components. Now, the important thing also to know is that that balance and that presence of all these components is going to change. It's going to change over time in any relationship. Initial passion, that might mellow into a deeper, more enduring intimacy, and then commitment can then strengthen as the relationship evolves. It's a very dynamic relationship between these three components. So, what about you? Where are you right now in your relationships? Are you experiencing romantic, companionate, virtuous, or consummate love? It's worth spending some time thinking about this, reflecting on these components that are present in your relationships: passion, intimacy, and commitment. And the reason for spending a bit of time reflecting on it is because then you can then start to explore ways to enhance the areas that might be lacking. So spend a bit of time after you've listened to this to just think about that for your own relationships. Okay, let's move on and talk about then the expression of love and love language. So this idea of love language, it's become relatively recently popularized, and it became popularized after Gary Chapman's book was published, his book called The 5 Love Languages. So what do we mean by love language? Well, it's not just about the words. Love is not just about words. It's about connection and communication on a much, much deeper level, which then you can express, yes, verbally, but also non-verbally. So by understanding all these different love languages, what you can then do is enhance your relationships and enhance your connections with others. So let's get into this. Let's go through the 5 primary love languages. Firstly, words of affirmation. So this is about verbal or written expressions to affirm and appreciate your loved ones. Now, this could be as simple as those special 3 words, I love you. Or it might look like complimenting someone on their achievements, things like, you're incredible, or what you do is awesome, tell me more. It's about showing interest. And then secondly, you have acts of service. So this is about performing acts that show love and support. It's about making love visible. Things like cooking a meal or running errands or helping each other with chores. What these actions demonstrate is care and consideration for someone else's well-being. Third love language, that's receiving gifts. So what this involves is giving and receiving very tangible symbols of love. Now, it's not about the monetary value of the gift, but it's about the thought and the effort that's put into choosing something meaningful for the other person. Fourth love language, quality time. This is about dedicating undivided attention to your loved ones. That means putting away distractions, and it means engaging in activities that create that connection and that create shared experiences. And then finally, the language of physical touch. So this is the power of touch in expressing love. And that can look like anything from holding hands to hugging to more intimate gestures. So over to you. What's your love language? Do you have a go-to? Are there some of these languages that I've talked about that you use more, that are your default perhaps? Are there others that you use less? Are there some that you don't use at all? And maybe think about other people that you're connected to, friends, partners, family. What have you noticed about their love language? Okay, so we talked about love, why it matters, what it is, how to express it. Let's now move into the science of love, because we can't ignore the role of our brain and body in this beautiful, intricate dance called love, can we? So when you're experiencing the feeling of love, your brain is sending a cascade of neuromodulators and neurochemicals around, which then shape your emotions and shape your behaviors. Now, you've heard me on this show talk many, many times about getting your daily dose of neuromodulators: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And love gives you all 4. So what's love doing? Love is activating the brain's reward system. It's flooding it with feel-good chemicals. We've got dopamine, which is responsible for those pleasure sensation. Dopamine is what creates motivation and desire. It builds those intense feelings of excitement and euphoria when you experience love. Oxytocin, this is the one that we call the love hormone. And what it's doing is playing a very crucial role in bonding and in trust. So it gets released during those moments of intimacy, of connection. And that might be an enduring hug, or it might be engaging in sexual activity. Oxytocin is what deepens your emotional connections, and it creates attachment. Serotonin, another neurotransmitter that regulates your mood, and it contributes to your feeling of contentment, stabilizes your emotions, gives you that feeling of pure well-being. And then, of course, there's your endorphins. They give you comfort and security with love. So have you had your daily dose of love today? So now let's dive into the world of data and love. Because love is not just a concept. It is something that can be measured and can be quantified. Now you might be wondering, how do you quantify a feeling? Well, one way is through psychometrics. So things like questionnaires and scales, which turn your responses into numbers. One of the most well-known scales which has been used to measure love is a scale called the Love Attitude Scale. And what the Love Attitude Scale is looking at is it's looking at your beliefs and your attitudes towards love. So that then what happens when you take the scale and get your numerical value, what it does is it gives you your own personal insights into your thoughts and feelings and expectations about love. So there's 42 questions in the scale, and in these questions you look at the statements and then you simply answer whether you strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, or are neutral about the statement. So I'll give you a bit of an idea. Here's some of the statements in the love attitude scale. So what some statements do is they assess your beliefs about things like, say, your ideal duration of romantic relationships, stating things like true love lasts forever, or love is a temporary feeling. And you can either then agree, disagree, or be neutral about that statement. Other statements, they're exploring your attitudes towards commitment. So statements such as, I believe in long-term commitment in relationships, or I prefer casual and non-committal relationships. And the scale also assesses your attitudes towards passion and intimacy. Statements like physical attraction is a crucial aspect of love, or emotional intimacy is more important to me than physical intimacy. So what I will do is I'll put a link to the scale in the show notes, because it's definitely worth you looking at this to get your own insights into your own preferences and your own beliefs. And the really interesting thing to do would be also to ask your partner or anyone else that you have relationships with to do this as well. Because by doing this together, what this will then lead to is, well, much more meaningful conversations between you, so that you can explore the dynamics of your relationship together, look at your responses together, and then you can start to align your expectations. You can communicate more effectively. You can nurture the kind of love that resonates with both of you, with both of your values and both of your desires. So take a look at that. That's the love attitude scale. Now, what about devices? How are devices useful in exploring love? Well, here, let's have a look at some of the physiological markers of love. So when love is felt, or when love is expressed, your physiology changes. And one important physiological marker of love is something that's called your heart rate variability, your HRV. And what your heart rate variability measures is the variation in the time interval between your heartbeats. And what researchers have found is that HRV correlates with feelings of love, and it correlates with feelings of attachment. And what this means is that when you're in a state of love or a state of deep connection, your HRV tends to become much more responsive. It's much more smooth and harmonious and coherent, and it gives you a feeling of well-being. So that means that if you're practicing activities that promote coherence in HRV, so things like breathing exercises or mindfulness or doing activities that bring joy and relaxation, this in turn can have a positive impact on your relationships. So what these practices do is they regulate your physiological responses and they create a sense of connection with your partners. So if you pay attention to your own HRV and to your partner's HRV, you can get some very interesting insights into the state of your relationship. So what could this look like? Well, if you notice that your HRV has become more harmonious when you're together, well, that's a good sign. It's a good sign that you're fostering deep, positive connections. But conversely, if your HRV is often erratic when you're together, it might just be an indication that you need to prioritize self-care or find other ways to connect with your partner. So how do you look at HRV and how do you look at coherence in terms of devices? Well, there are specific devices that are available that measure your HRV coherence. So there's two you might like to have a look at. One is HeartMath in a Balance, and the other one is the Muse device. So have a look at both of those. What are the devices? What other devices can measure your physiological response to love? Well, how about a thermometer? Interesting. Skin temperature is a very, very intriguing aspect to consider when it comes to love and relationships. So your body temperature and your skin temperature is influenced by your emotional state, by your feelings of love and your feelings of attraction. And you can now measure your skin temperature with very smart devices like smartphones and smartwatches. So now that you can measure it, how can you practically use skin temperature to enhance your relationships? Well, think about this. When you're experiencing feelings of love or romantic attraction, the skin temperature of your face and your extremities tends to increase. This is a particular phenomenon that's called thermal arousal. So one way to use skin temperature to deepen your connection with your partner is through the power of touch. If you engage in physical contact, so things like holding hands, hugging, cuddling, embracing, what that does is it creates warmth, it creates intimacy. It's the act of touch itself that increases skin temperature, which in turn triggers the release of oxytocin, the love hormone that I mentioned earlier. So don't underestimate the power of a simple, loving touch. What it does is create coziness and comfort. It strengthens that bond between you and your partner. So another practical approach is to create warmth in a physical space. So looking again at the research, it suggests that being in a warm environment can influence your emotional state, increase those feelings of interpersonal warmth between you. So set the mood. Create a warm ambience, temperature-wise, as well as with lighting and warm colours and cozy blankets. It's a way to create an atmosphere that promotes love and intimacy. And additionally, if you're paying attention to your partner's body temperature and those cues, then again, that can also give you some insights into their emotional state. So, if you notice that your partner's skin temperature is warmer than usual, it might just indicate a heightened sense of affection, a heightened time of attraction. And in these moments, you can reciprocate by expressing your own love and your own affection, which just deepens the connection between you. And conversely, if you notice that your partner's body temperature is lower than usual, it might just be an indication that they're feeling a bit distant or disconnected. And if that's the case, just open up a conversation. So look, of course, skin temperature, it's a very subtle and nuanced aspect of love that can just be added to your overall experience. Just being mindful of the impact of touch just creates a warm, welcoming environment. And by doing this, you can just enhance and harness the power of skin temperature to create moments of love and connection. And while using devices and physiological data can offer very intriguing insights, love is, of course, as you probably realize by now, a very complex and multifaceted experience that, of course, goes beyond numbers and measurements. So building and nurturing strong, loving relationships, of course, requires open communication, trust and empathy and mutual respect. But what physiological data can do, well, it can deepen your understanding of love. So you can use this knowledge as a guide to foster even stronger and more fulfilling relationships. What devices and technology can do is augment your experience of love. But of course, they're tools. They're not substitutes in any way for genuine human connection. But what I know is that they can certainly add a layer of fun and intrigue into relationships too. And of course, we need fun in relationships. So use devices and get some data and use that. So let's wrap up. Let's wrap up this episode with 3 very powerful hacks to enhance your experience of love. Hack number 1 is to practice gratitude. Now, expressing gratitude towards the ones you love, well, it not only strengthens your bond, but it also cultivates a very positive mindset. It increases those feelings of love and appreciation. So just take a moment each day. Reflect on the things that you appreciate about the one you love and let them know how much they mean to you. Use your love language to express your gratitude. Hack number 2 is engage in active listening. Because truly listening to your partner, truly listening to the one you love without judgment, without interruption, that's what fosters a deeper understanding, a deeper connection. Because it shows that you value their thoughts, you value their emotions. So just practice being fully present in conversations and just giving your undivided attention. And hack number 3 is to prioritize quality time. Of course, life is busy. And in your busy life, it's so important, though, to carve out dedicated time for the ones that you love. So create rituals or create traditions that then allow you to just connect on a much deeper level. Whatever that looks like for you, whether it's weekly date night or family game night or just setting aside uninterrupted time for meaningful conversations. It's quality time that builds strong emotional bonds. It strengthens your connections with others. So remember, love is complex, it's beautiful, it's just waiting for you to harness it. It needs intention and it needs attention. So by incorporating these hacks into your life, you can enhance your love experience and create meaningful connections that will enrich your well-being. So Health Hacktivators, remember, love is not only a source of happiness and fulfillment, but it's also a powerful factor in promoting a longer and healthier life. So embrace love, cherish your relationships, and let love be the elixir that adds more vibrant years to your journey. I wish you a health activating day.